What's up everyone? Welcome back to my channel. I am Lolise and today we are going to be talking about the one, the only, Iilluminaughtii. Yes, the woman who has been branded Creepshow Art 2.0. At first I was skeptical, but as we dig deeper we will find that that might be the case. But if you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the bell icon so you get a notification every time I post. And please don't send anybody that we talk about in this video any hate, negativity, nothing like that. These are just my thoughts and opinions based on what I'm seeing play out on the internet. So if you have something to say about what we are talking about, just shoot it down in the comments below. That's what they are there for. Okay, this Iilluminaughtii stuff is just gotten so crazy. It's just like stuff just continues to build and build and build. Not unlike the Creepshow Art situation that occurred in, was that 2021? Yeah, that was just insane. And kind of not unlike the Scandival stuff that has been happening a lot recently too. I became aware of Iilluminaughtii I think around like 2020, like the pandemic, we all had a lot of time to watch YouTube, things like that. She did a lot of anti-MLM stuff. I watched a lot of anti-MLM stuff. I don't really much anymore just because it becomes super monotonous after a while and like you can only watch so many videos of people like getting into other Zoom calls. So I was never like super part of the community because I've also, well, I have been in some MLMs, but I was never successful and I never recruited anybody. She did have a situation with another creator that I liked called Cruel World Happy Mind. Created a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth. So I actually unsubscribed from her and kind of forgot about the situation. But recently she has basically stirred up her own drama and started her own downward spiral. So I want to start with what recently happened that kind of kicked off this whole thing and then kind of create a timeline going back to 2020 and when people have come out and shared their stories. Just recently, about maybe a month ago at this point, Iilluminaughtii decided to call out another content creator, a legal content creator called Legal Eagle. These people are attorneys. So she decided to call Legal Eagle out publicly on Twitter and say the following: "Not Legal Eagle editors broaching my editors to take my video style, and when they didn't give up the info they literally copied it. And by the way, I have the messages from my editors and found an email from them too. Just change the colors from purple to blue, huh? Interesting." So I went through my emails and found this, just outright saying, yeah, I'm gonna do this, but if you could make it easier for me, I'd appreciate it. And I, for some reason, don't have a copy of that email, but basically that email was like, hey, we see these things you do. I don't know if there's like a plugin or something that can help. It wasn't like, if you don't tell us, we're gonna do this anyway. She just twists it into a very aggressive stance. Then she shares another screenshot and says, also went to my Discord server to try and get more to cop to style. And then you see a screenshot of, they say, am I allowed to put video essays I made that I was inspired by Blair's channel? Or is there like no self-promotion? Also, is there any way I can talk to one of the video editors? I edit for Legal Eagle and want to know how they did a specific effect. And then somebody said, you have to be a level 2 to post links. That is the best place for that would be advertise yourself. And then the editor says, and about talking to the editing team, I've emailed in the past but got no response, so I figured I'd try here. Then Iilluminaughtii shares her 2 examples of this editing style that she says Legal Eagle is trying to steal from her. The first one, example A, is torn paper. Torn paper is a editing style that she claims is something that they are copying from her, not that that is something that is pretty much a default on any kind of like editing software. Like I'm sure if you go into Canva and look at templates, I'm sure this exists. So this is nothing that is groundbreaking, and she's not the first or only person to use the torn paper effect. And then her second example, example B, is highlighted text in a video. Like as you see text going by, you see it highlighting. That is also not something that is original to Iilluminaughtii. Like I don't know how to do that in videos. It would probably be a little nice little added effect, but it's not something that is just solely hers. Like I see people use this all the time, and let's be fair, pretty much everything in her videos, like her entire editing style, is something that a lot of people do. There's a lot of people have that very similar editing style. So nothing that she does is groundbreaking. Then she tweets, so someone has been trying to gain access to my Google accounts and various social media accounts while I was streaming. Hacking into somebody's accounts because you don't agree with them is nasty, and people who condone this behavior in their communities are gross. Almost kind of insinuating, possibly at least to me, that somebody from Legal Eagle's team or one of their fans or supporters was trying to do this. It does kind of have creep show, somebody hacked my account vibes, but it keeps going. So then somebody responds, and this person is H-Bomber Guy, says, just to clarify, one of Legal Eagle's editors asked one of your editors what plugin they used for a personal video they were working on for their own channel. I take plagiarism really seriously, so I'm interested in an explanation of what exactly is wrong here. Then they actually share a clip from a documentary comparing it to a video that Iilluminaughtii did on the same topic of the documentary. And, well, they say this. Personally, Iilluminaughtii, I would define plagiarism as something a bit more specific. For example, copying someone else's documentary directly into your script. I don't think I have a clip of it, but playing it side by side, yeah, they're almost completely identical to what is being said. Now, the documentary, I believe, was on like BBC, and she did actually list this as one of the sources in this video. But yes, it is pretty much an exact copy of what is said. Then Legal Eagle actually responds and says, hey, Iilluminaughtii, I think this is a big misunderstanding. Perhaps great minds think alike? No one on my team is trying to copy you. Without an exhaustive review of your channel, I believe we use those two styles before your channel did. We've used them for 3 to 4 years. So the two examples that she provides have zero weight, and she began to get ratioed, essentially. And this was when I was started to being reminded of the situation with Cruel World Happy Mind. And I was not the only one who remembered this situation either, because people started to bring that up in comments as well. So she listened to all the backlash and criticism she was getting, and she apologized to Legal Eagle privately, and then she decided to apologize publicly as well, because, well, when you publicly call out somebody for something like this, when you're in the wrong and you only apologize privately, the public is still going to continue to be on the defensive. This was what she tweeted to Legal Eagle. Although I've apologized privately, I would like to do so publicly. I'm sorry for making editing style claims that were inaccurate. I jumped the gun, though hastily, and should have messaged you privately to hash things out. I am sorry. And then she shares a screenshot of a DM. I want to reach out and apologize for my tweet yesterday. I was quick to protect my editors when they brought this info to me, and I overreacted. I have deleted the tweets. They said, understood, thanks for the apology, and thanks for deleting. And that's all well and good, but unfortunately for Iilluminaughtii, this situation opened Pandora's box on her ass, and everything is coming out now. So initially, it kind of took me back to the Cruel World Happy Mind situation. I may have been making videos at this point, but if I was, it was not commentary stuff. I was probably making like beauty videos, and like I would do gardening vlogs from time to time. And at the time, I did watch quite a bit of anti-MLM content. I did really like Cruel World Happy Mind because she was like a real, more genuine person, and her videos, I mean, though now they have become very well edited. Not that they weren't well edited before, but they were just like, it felt a little more low key. And I mean, both of them do well researched and well edited videos, so that was kind of the draw in for both of them. And they both would also include sources in their videos. So in 2020, Cruel World Happy Mind, or her name is Madison, so I might just call her Madison because it's a lot to keep saying Cruel World Happy Mind. But she did a video on Tyra Banks's, now I'm pretty sure it's a defunct MLM brand. I don't even remember what she sold exactly, maybe like lipsticks or something. I didn't actually watch it because at that point I just did not care about Tyra Banks's MLM. But not long after Madison posted her video, Iilluminaughtii, or Blair as I will probably be calling her through this video as well, because once again also Iilluminaughtii just becomes a lot to keep saying, but I might use Blair and Iilluminaughtii interchangeably. They're the same person. But not long after Madison posted her video on Tyra Banks, Blair or Iilluminaughtii posted a video on her channel about Tyra Banks' MLM as well. Now, posting a video on the same topic as somebody is not bad in and of itself. It happens all the time. Well, what Madison specifically found weird about Blair Iilluminauttii's video was that it had a lot of the same talking points, at least in the beginning, and it sounded very similar to Madison's video on the topic. And Madison was a fan of Iilluminaughtii, so she actually looked in the video and saw that it said sources coming soon as opposed to other videos of hers where she already had all of the sources listed in there. So she found that odd as well. Madison then talked to another anti-MLM creator at the time who is not an anti-MLM creator anymore. Her name was Kimberly. She had a whole drama disaster mess when she left that community. That could be a whole video in and of itself. But she was talking to her about the situation and kind of like how it made her feel a little bit. And Kimberly told her, message her about it, like call her out on it. And then when Madison did send her a message, Kimberly was like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that. That is such mean girl mentality, but after also knowing like all the drama that happened with her leaving that community, none of that's surprising either. Now, beyond all that typical high school stuff, here's what that message actually said, and I want to apologize for the poor quality of this photo, because at this point, the only screenshot I could find was taking a screenshot from Tommy C's stream on this situation. So I do want to give a shout out to a super old stream from Tommy C's channel. I will link it down below, but it talks about a lot of this, and I was able to see a lot of clips from videos and things that have been deleted. She messaged her and said, hey hun, which is like a funny joke because MLM people always are like, hey hun. Anyway, she said, sorry I had to. I don't know if you know my channel, but I'm a really small YouTuber, has been really inspired by the content you make. I got a few messages about the video you posted about Tyra's MLM because I've done a video on that topic. I'm really happy you're spreading more awareness on this topic, but it did low-key feel like a lot of what was said in the beginning of the video was really similar to the things I discussed regarding Tyra's MLM and her controversies, the rabies bit, etc. Coincidences happen, and I'm sure as a large YouTuber, you were accused of stealing content from people you've never heard of or seen before, so I get if this message comes across that way. With the intention of just being open and honest, I was really hurt by the video though, because you're someone who has really inspired me in the content I make, so I wanted to reach out and hopefully have an honest but positive discussion on it all. Either way, I still appreciate the work you do. And that was just a nice like message. Reading that, I don't really get any kind of like negative feeling from it. She is just trying to be open and communicative with somebody that she sees as a peer in her industry. And well, Iilluminaughtii never responded to that. Well, at least she didn't respond to Madison about that. But though she did not respond to Madison about it, she did have some things to say about it on a podcast she went on. On this podcast, she refers to her as this small creator. She talks about Madison using BuzzFeed as a source and even herself as a source. And I mean, okay, like this isn't some like college thesis paper. You're doing videos on Tyra Banks. So yeah, the information that you need for this might be coming from a BuzzFeed article because, well, the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal aren't doing articles on Tyra Banks. You're not gonna find like academic things about Tyra Banks's MLM. So yeah, you're gonna go to BuzzFeed for these kinds of things. And then to criticize Madison for using Blair herself as a source, well, do you not see yourself as a credible source for things? When you say that you put so much time and effort into research, wouldn't you at least know a little bit about these topics? That also shows that she is broadening her search and watching videos on topics. Then in this podcast, she says until this point, she didn't know there was an anti-MLM community. Like she was completely unaware that it existed. Are you serious? You've done all this research for all these different MLMs. How could you get information about MLMs without knowing about the entire anti-MLM community? Where do you think all of the information about MLMs comes from, like the payment plans and how all of the inner stuff works? It comes from the inside and people who are really activists within the anti-MLM community. For her to say she doesn't know about it is like kind of ridiculous. You've never done any sort of research and come across anti-MLM communities. We'll show in a little bit that she has, but let's continue with this situation. But she says she doesn't watch anybody, so she also does not want to be part of the anti-MLM community. Though she at that point was literally only making anti-MLM content. She's like, I'm not part of this community. She doesn't want to be associated with them at all. Okay, then you just drew your line in the sand. So at that point, I don't really think people would even want to share information with her for videos. And also like not watching videos on the topic that you're discussing. I mean, YouTube is Google. You don't search about videos about the topics you're doing. I mean, Iilluminaughtii does have a team of like researchers and editors and stuff. So it is possible they pull this information and Blair really has no idea where this came from. However, it is still her channel, and she's the one that's the face of it. I use it loosely because, you know, it's a pyramid head. It's not like her face, but still her name is the one that's on the line here. So she's the one that's responsible for all the content essentially that goes out there. I hate when people blame their editors or their writers or something for something that their name is on the channel. And they're listening to this part of the podcast on Tommy C's stream, and he kept asking his team, because Tommy C does have a team as well. I think his thing is called like Shot from the Point. I don't know. I haven't watched him in a long time, but they couldn't remember what the podcast was. And as I'm listening to it, I was like, is this the Welsh twins? And I looked it up, and it is. It is their Double Cleanse podcast. It's from like September of 2020. So just a few months after she didn't respond to Madison's DM about this, she decides to go as a much larger YouTuber on two other much larger YouTubers, very popular podcasts. It's also kind of disappointing because I do like the Welsh twins, but then to hear the conversation and like kind of laughing and not really knowing anything about it was kind of disheartening. And then in a Instagram story, Blair also insinuated that Madison was buying bots, like buying views or buying followers, because she found her on some like spammy bot site. She just threw that out there out of nowhere. So that kind of shows that Iilluminaughtii was actually like looking and digging for stuff on Cruel World Happy Mind. How else would she have found information about her on a bot website? So then after the podcast went live, Madison knew that Iilluminaughtii was talking about her, and she messaged her again. And once again, I apologize for this terrible screenshot. And she said, "Hey, I think I need to clear some things up with you. Obviously, you've seen my above message from the time everything took place, and you've seen my recent video. I explained that situation because I found the DM with the other creators to be very bizarre, but if you watch the video, I never accuse you of stealing. A few people sent me messages about it, and I got scared, but I realized I literally don't have ownership over a topic, and that's a stupid way to think. Not sure if you watched that part or misinterpreted, but I'd love to chat it out because though you may believe differently, I want the drama to stop, and I wanted the wrong people to no longer be blamed for all of it when they don't deserve hate. So let's talk." Also, not sure if you're referring to me when talking about hitting views, but I really have no idea what you're talking about. Just literally started Googling myself and finding my name in weird places, but please enlighten me on that one. Now, I believe the video she's referencing is a video that Tommy C watches in his stream, and so he does have clips. And this is a just very long video of just all of this drama that Madison had kind of found herself in, specifically within the anti-MLM community and this Kimberlea person. And then I think Kimberlea had some sort of like sidekick who also was leaving the community. I don't know. It was like a lot of really ridiculous drama. And then this Kimberlea person like went and struck everybody's channel. So I was like, I'm just gonna stay away from them for now. But because she told Madison to message Iilluminaughtii, she did bring this up. Madison has since taken the video down, so you can't find it anywhere, but there are clips of it in Tommy C's stream. So for like the 18th million time, I will link it down below and you can see some of what she talks about. It's a very small section of like, I think the video was over an hour long. It was a lot. I remember watching it way back in the day, but I do not have a copy of it or anything. So from this message and from all this hoopla, they actually ended up having a phone conversation. They actually don't live that far from each other. At the time, I think Madison could have moved. Her husband, I believe, is in the military, so she does move around a lot. But they ended up having a 3-hour phone conversation, and they came to the conclusion and put out publicly that it was just all a misunderstanding and everything is good with them, and they are just moving on from that drama. And I think really it's just because Madison just wanted to be done with the drama and just move on and live her life, because at the time I think she was pregnant. She's got a lot of other stuff going on. Her husband is probably getting deployed. She's moving around a lot. She's trying to make things work. The reason that Tommy C does this live stream in the first place is not because he's like white knighting for Cruel World Happy Mind for Madison. She does pull at his heartstrings a little bit. Like, he blatantly says that like she is just this adorable woman. She's a military wife that pulls at his heartstrings. But the real reason he's covering this is because Iilluminaughtii has screwed him over before too. She actually, before she blew up, she worked on his team. She did have her own team of editors and writers, but she would write and make videos for his channel. They worked together. She was part of that whole commentary crew back in the the day. So because a lot of different drama happened, she didn't like jokes that were being made at other people's expenses, even though she had also made jokes at other people's expenses. And if you look at Tommy C and his crew and the people that he associates with, they're all people that make edgy, questionable, off-color jokes at the expense of other people. So I'm not sure why she would have gotten so offended if this was like she knew what this group was like and this is kind of what she was like too. She decided that she was going to leave. She told Tommy C that she was going to be leaving the channel and she was going to be taking her team with her, and he of course was totally fine with that. You can't make somebody stay and work on a YouTube channel. And then he was talking to somebody else about the situation and he started having this gut feeling, and he looked at the channel and she had removed all of the videos that she was associated with, or maybe just all the videos. He says, sure, like she could have worked on them, but like he owned those videos. That was his channel, and she just went and removed everything before leaving. So all of that went down. The stream was from 2020. I'm not totally sure when the deleting of the videos happened. I'm gonna say like 2017, 2018, but I'm not really sure. So that was a couple years ago. Iilluminaughtii has since moved away from just doing anti-MLM content to just like covering scams overall, like corporations, stuff like that. Iilluminauttii's videos are pretty much the same style, but the topics are different. Pretty much she just ran out of MLMs to cover. So now back to the present time. Of course, a lot of backlash is happening. When a lot of backlash is happening towards a creator, people will start to share any potential negative experiences they've had with said creator. And this led to several former associates of hers coming forward and talking about their dealings and interactions with Iilluminaughtii. These were former friends and people that she worked with on a collab channel called Sad Milk, which I'd never heard of until all of this. Now, the 4 creators that we're going to be focusing on are The Click, Wonder, Oz, and One Topic. So The Click was the first one to come forward, and he came forward on Twitter and he had like a whole 16 thread thing. So we're going to go over it, and he says, "Hey, ya peeps. I have seen the recent drama regarding Iilluminaughtii and would like to clarify I'm not affiliated with her and have not been in over 2 years. I left her and the collaborative group Sad Milk due to similar behavior as seen in the recent events. Lashing out at friends and fans, paranoia, and generally poor anger management, to name a few. Eventually, I believe pretty much the whole group left her. The last meeting I ever had with her, she spent half an hour, I think hard to know, screaming at me for an array of random things, calling me a bad friend, lazy, and a bunch of random accusations that didn't really have anything to do with me. There is no way you can have the resume you claim and be the stupid, and so on. No one even raised their voice back at her. I left along with several other members, half of the group at the time. She spent the next few months spreading lies and half-truths about us on the Sad Milk Reddit page and vague posts on Twitter. I still have all the screenshots. She would turn friends against you, or specifically team up with people she knew didn't like you, so she had allies against you, rallying mainly behind problematic community members known to be liars and conflict seekers. When people started questioning that maybe she was the reason everyone left, there was a very convenient digging up of an 11 to 14-year-old videos of me. Stuff I made when I started my channel in 2009 when I was a teenager. As you can probably guess, some of the jokes from that time aged like milk. I publicly owned up to my past mistakes and apologized, doing my best to be transparent and honest about my past. She would still harp on it, ignoring the fact that it had already been addressed, trying to direct as much attention to it as possible, publicly stating it was a bad apology, along with vague posting about it in comments on the collaboration channel. And maybe in an attempt to get people to assume I had been kicked out for moral behavior rather than leaving because of her own behavior. She, assuming it was her as she had her own channel access, also likely to pulled that I can only describe as petty acts of revenge. For example, some people left comments on the collaborative channel saying, "Good that Click left. They obviously got ratioed hard as people were there for the creators." She would go manually in and delete the ratio comments but leave the original hate comments. She tried to gain control of my Discord when it surpassed hers in size by tossing around accusations at staff and trying to get rid of my team and replacing it with hers, giving me the ultimatum to fire my entire senior staff or be publicly fired from Sad Milk myself. Trying to gain control of somebody's Discord? First of all, Discord is a cesspool. Like, I just never hear like great things coming from Discord. But also, like, what is she, Russia, trying to take over countries? Just trying to take over somebody's Discord? You have your own. I was still a YouTube freshie at the time, and she was quite intimidating, claiming connections and clout, reputation, and powerful friends. So everyone stayed mostly silent and had to constantly look over our shoulders for the next year. None of us even mentioned the whole thing. We were worried talking in our own Discords as it became apparent comment that she had spies within our moderation ranks. We were just hoping we wouldn't have our own reputation completely destroyed for simply walking away. This is just a brief summary of events, and it's sad to see that she has not changed. Then only a few hours after Click made his Twitter post, then Wonderstruck, I'm just gonna call him Wonder, made their own Twitter thread, and they said, "Forgive me for being the scattered emotions and all, gotta love them." A sad milk thread. After being threatened with a breach of speaking out, I can confirm the behavior Blair exhibits is entirely accurate here. I'm aware of the bridges I burned and remain where I am. After a Sad Milk split, it was a constant negative echo chamber that I took part in. Regardless, I used to edit for Sad Milk. Blair made no effort to take direction. She made everything about herself. Sad Milk at the time was the nearest thing to a family I have, which sounds pathetic, but the content creator space is a very isolating one. The amount of hours I would spend online making drafts, editing tutorials for new hires, staying up trying to get some editing in if editors were shorthand. I miss Chris with my brother and father fixing up the mistakes of an editor she hired and I didn't even get a thank you. It took me more than half a month to even get paid. Meanwhile, she delayed pays to editor so she can purchase expensive clothes, visit BMW dealerships, and spend hundreds on food a day. While I do hold my beliefs towards certain matters, every month or so there was a new villain of the week, and they would one second be a normal person in our lives, and the next second suddenly a hidden monster through, you guessed it, Blair's mouth. To say Sad Milk split on creative differences is a joke. It's a flat out lie. Again, I'm aware of the bridges burned, but I can confirm that call took place where she screamed, cursed, and melted down, and had a meltdown towards the Click and one topic. It was a train wreck. It was supposed to be a fun group project, and we had to become profitable, even to a small extent. Blair wanted creative lead, and we went from doing fun creative topics, more in line with the Reddit we would cover on our own channels, to doing unenthusiastic view content. Blair took control and wouldn't listen to how the videos should be made, so we got hyper loud music with childlike sprites paired with adult humor, which made being part of Sad Milk humiliating. My friends and I would watch Sad Milk and laugh not at the content, but how awful it had become. Not due to anyone being entertaining, but the lack of quality control. It was an editorial nightmare. It's why in part I stopped editing, because my really well-made content got roped into that by proxy. Blair did not care. It was hers, and anyone who dared to try and take the reins was a threat. After Clicked, OT, and Salty left, I did almost all the heavy lifting, which is a thankless job for being small on the internet. I tried making us schedules. I motivated Blair during another mental breakdown of hers to not delete the channel or the Discord, since I actively read through the comments on both, and we had people who we mattered to. After months of behind-the-scenes insults towards Click and OT, it became so stale and negative. Yes, we all took part, but after it gone on so long, it just became day after day Blair would sit and check Click and OT's social blade. She would make fake accounts to stalk them. Remember that. Not just them, but a large portion of the commentary community. I've personally seen her try to get her lawyer to shut down anyone who says anything against her, and they ruin her day by saying, yeah, we really can't do anything. It's insane. Innocent people don't work so hard to try and silence others. We would get no work done. I can't count how many times I pleaded and set up meetings for us to do something, and nobody cared. I thought I had a friend who was hurting, then I saw I moved to villain. And like everyone else, I got shut out, trash talk, and the people I made efforts to be friends with wouldn't even acknowledge my existence. For me, I had already moved states under good faith. I was bettering my life. In 30 days of living with Blair, it was a nightmare. I felt like I was trapped in her home always. She made everyone her enemy. She called Wonder checking in to see if I'm okay, an invasion of privacy. I sent her numerous messages trying to show I wanted to be her friend. She lives like an actual monster. Her home is a mess, like hoarders bad. Constant subtweets about me on Twitter and ignoring me, and if I dare say anything back, her Discord manager would happily remind me of my contract. And then he shares a picture of a room and says, this is disgusting. And the room is pretty trashed, I'm not gonna lie. But he does call her a hoarder, and if she is a hoarder, like, hoarding is a very serious mental disease. It's usually rooted in like trauma or insecurity. So if she is a hoarder, I really don't want to attack somebody for a mental illness for that reason alone, just because I'm mad at them. However, he was living in what could potentially have been a hoarding situation, so it is actually affecting other people, and that is a concern. And he's going to talk about a therapist in a minute, so she was working with a therapist to hopefully overcome whatever trauma which may be leading to hoarding, but I'm not saying she's a hoarder. I've obviously not diagnosed her, and I can't necessarily say she's a hoarder just from this picture alone. Let's continue with the thread though. Wonder goes on to say, so my therapist, who she accuses me of stealing because she suggested I leave the house at all costs, and I did. And the details I can't get into further due to legalities, but I ended up with no car, hardly any clothes, and money to my name, and no home. Now working full time again, I had no time for my channel. I had cried, bled, and worked through hell to get up. So I watched it die, since my main concern now was to put food on my table. All because I made friends with one of the most vile people on the platform. Nobody wanted to talk to me, and I was too afraid to go fully public as I did not know the reach this massive creator had. I had everything IRL and online taken from me. She personally threw my YouTube play button in the trash. If that isn't symbolic, man, I don't know what is. I've spent the last 2 years of my life rebuilding from the ground up due to this woman. The only difference, as I get to come back as a stronger person, she doesn't. She can't take that away from everyone she has screwed over. Blair, you can't hide anymore. Sooner or later, you were going to push everyone who you care about away from you, and you'd realize the world isn't out to get you. But you made your fears a reality all on your own. I'm not afraid of you. You don't get that from me anymore. Never again. I apologize for how long this thread is. I understand this place probably isn't the best place to do it, but I'm so sick of knowing all this information and not being able to say anything. Have a good day. Be well, everyone. Wonder. Then the next day on April 24th, a creator named Oz Media came out, and they said, I think it's time I actually speak on the current Twitter threads regarding sad milk in 2021. I cannot express how scared I am to do this, the fear I have in my gut to even speak out. However, I do feel it's important to say my piece on this subject matter. Yes, it's a mess, but the tweet threads posted by Wonder and Click and what they have stated about sad milk is true, and I will be adding to those threads below. The whole project was a mess from start to finish. I really wish I didn't need to do this, but with the flurry of DMs I've been getting, I have no choice but to speak out. Blair, I'm sorry, but you have hurt me. I need to speak without being told by you, oh, I'm just the villain, I'm always in the wrong, or have something along those lines. Words I have heard from you constantly. I just want to be heard for once. I need to clear my mind and conscience after holding this in for 2 years. Forgive me, but it's what needs to be done. When looking at the whole of the project, it's mostly controlled and run by Blair. Her main worry was that because of her, in her words, lack of personality, she felt as though her contribution to sad milk needed to be managerial bureaucracy behind the scenes to justify her presence. This led to a defensive approach when anyone would attempt to assist in the nitty-gritty behind the scenes, despite her claiming that no one wanted to help her. One of the factors she claims was the final nail in the coffin of sad milk. So, like, she wanted to have control and make money off of a collab channel, but she feels like she doesn't have enough charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent to actually draw people in to want to watch her. And it sounds like the other people of sad milk were, at least according to like her interpretation, were more engaging and people liked them more. So she felt like she had to make a stance and be seen as important in some other way. So she took over the behind-the-scenes stuff. Blair was indeed the aggressor. She always has been. As an example of this behavior, look at the legal eagle situation. Blair has the habit of starting fights, but will almost never publicly apologize if proven wrong. She will instead hide behind a private apology, though, and from my perspective, act as though this makes everything better. After all, she would express to me that admitting error would only make her look stupid and weak. This would be followed by her blocking people on Twitter, silencing her detractors through YouTube channel bans, deleting comments, and putting her accounts on the download to prevent interaction. For example, on Sad Milk, she would blacklist former collaborators from being mentioned, but manually approve hateful comments towards them, which, in my opinion, were specifically ones that instead praised her or the remaining members, including me. This is her MO. It has been for the 4 years I have known her. It actually perfectly ties into how we first met and we began speaking terms in April of 2019. Sad Milk was very much like this. At the first sign of dissonance, her first response was to have me confront OT and Click with this list of talking points in an attempt to show them just how wrong they were, which I accepted. This brings me to, well, me. What is missing from both Click and Wonder's threads, it is the fact that I acted as Blair's frontrunner. Anything Blair wanted to say went through me first, essentially acting as a spokesman. This was a common factor in our relationship. I would always act as a filter to keep her out of drama or from saying things that would seem as offensive or kindle a larger fire. I stopped doing this in January. This does not excuse me from protecting her for this long, but it is the truth. I could take the approach and say I was manipulated, which perhaps I was, but I still knew what I was doing was wrong. I always did, and it always hurt. It left a huge black mark on my spirit and my ability to feel comfortable in my own skin. I had moved to Colorado, got a house, and lived with her at the time. She was in my life every day, and I would hear those theories and villainous explanations directed at everyone who had wronged her. It was hard to avoid, let alone not fall for them. I believed it was my responsibility to protect my friend from something that, in my view, was clearly hurting her and something I felt was eating at her and making her daily life worse. Things which, in hindsight, could have been solved with a conversation, but she was unwilling. Instead, the conspiring, backstabbing, and rumor machine were put into full swing. I, as much as Wonder and Salty, were forced by Blair to choose between her or Click and OT. Of course, I'd choose the person I lived with. What was I gonna do? Move again? I mean, I could have. Once I chose my side, I was met with praise and adoration from her and her mod staff. It, at the time, felt like I was making the right decision. Man, boy, was I wrong. I lost so many friends, isolated myself, been at her side despite feeling like my connection to the world were being severed. I always acted as her talking piece, from yelling at one topic to berating Click and to other things I did in service of someone who, at the time, I believed every word of. I trusted Blair to hell and back and thought I was doing good. I have learned since through both self-reflection and conversations with old friends just how much I was unintentionally, hopefully, used. There, of course, is more. Much more. More than I could ever hope to cram into this stupid fucking Twitter thread that I know I'm going to get angry DM and phone calls over. Blair, I need you to know that you hurt me more than you realize. I know you're scanning this and having your team read over it, maybe even looking to send me a legal threat as you parade around to do so, but I want you to apologize for once in your life and take accountability. Please, Blair, you would rather paint the world red than admit you have fault. Then the following day, on April 25th, the last of the 4 collaborators from Sad Milk came out, and that was One Topic. And One Topic started the thread as just Sad Milk. My memory is fuzzy because despite how fun things started, it ended up being a source of stress that we worked hard to move on from. I honestly tried not to apply any active thought to it in a long time. While this is the first, I hope it will be my last time addressing this. Before any projects, we were a few people who had just started our YouTube journeys and who were lucky enough to meet up with others we looked up to and respected in a Discord call one night, and just started riffing, genuinely enjoying others' company and humor. Conversation among us would occasionally turn to future goals and whether we all could make this work, and we were excited that our own channels were doing well. Realistically, nowhere near full time, but more important to us, people were genuinely enjoying the content. When I started thinking about going full time, my channel made roughly $20 Canadian a day, but I'd never been more sure in my life. This was my dream. We were open with the creators around us about what we hoped was possible, and that spooled up into potential projects. We all watched one another's content, genuine fans, but no real experience with how to make things really work. One of us had been around on the platform far longer with more experience in how YouTube worked and was doing it as a job, with tons of advice we appreciated and valued. Most of us did one-off collabs when we had time, genuinely silly fun stuff, but not a whole group collab. That was new territory for us. We didn't know where to start with getting sourcing editors and sorting content, but after some quick conversation, it all just fell into place. One member of the group took the lead, and in a night we whipped up assets and a name and an idea, Sad Milk, and it was a blast. A bunch of homies all hanging in Discord doing nonsense, some really good memories. What really solidified commitment among us was when Click Channel was deleted by YouTube, on Christmas no less. The group was in a call when we saw and called Click while he was asleep to make sure he could jump on it fast, and we all reached out to YouTube and made tweets. It took weeks for YouTube over the holidays to even give him a real review or response, and it was just when he had gone full time. It was high stress, but we were all there to support him. I even bugged him into starting up a podcast to help distract him. Finally, they reviewed the issue, properly responded, and he got his channel back. After going through all that together, we felt we had each other's best interests at heart. We were friends and trusted one another implicitly. I had also decided to go full-time around that time, despite not making near the funds needed to realistically pull it off, and with no real savings, I knew this was worth the risk. The group project, the potential success of it, also factored in this decision, but also the time was needed. Back then, I was stretched so thin between more full-time hours at the day job, recording personal videos, recording group videos, working on the podcast, Patreon, Discord, and streaming that I was falling asleep while doing recordings and sleeping on my keyboard while editing. I quit my job, even went to meet some of the gang, and that was so cool. I have a ridiculous video of us running in the snow and having a giant snowball fight. I felt really connected to everyone in the group. Went home super charged up and ready to record more silly stuff. Expectations changed and we started recording more frequently, enjoying some more than others, but it was us as a group that we enjoyed most regardless of what we were doing, so we really pushed to make it work even with the extra recordings. I'm not sure what the initial tipping point was, but it was like a combination of no one having enough time for everything, time zones, conflicting schedules, but we all started to rub one another the wrong way. I did my best to help mediate conflict, especially because many of us had genuine fears that arguments were being taken too far. I did my best to stay in the middle and be the person to help fix things, DMing both parties, sitting in calls. I'm not perfect, but I tried. I felt each person was my friend and thought if we could just get past petty things, the small things, we could really make this work, but that day never came. I did not know that not everybody was coming to those conversations in good faith, and I'm still surprised. It fractured the group, and out of real fear of retaliation of everyone stepping out of line, we tried to make it the best of it. We kept showing up and recording, tried to help, but conflicts continued to pile up, fears piled up, and communication broke down. Ultimately, the fact is we didn't have enough time each day to complete our own projects and work, and continue a group project, all while trying to hash out disagreement after disagreement. It became unhealthy for us behind the scenes, and you could see how drained we were. To say it was negatively affecting my mental health would be an understatement. 3 of us opted to leave once we realized how far gone the project was, saying we go our own separate ways without causing a public stir or mess, and we hope those remaining would find success. We didn't learn about the rumors and stories that were told about us until a short time later. Hurt, who we thought of friends, were maliciously spreading falsehoods about us to justify how a project we walked away from was better off without us. We stayed silent, even privately. Just tried to do damage control quietly while unnecessary theories spun. Every few months for the next years, we would hear another worse rumor and we'd try to do damage control all over again. This was mentally and emotionally overwhelming. We all worked hard, but it didn't work out. We walked away from a project years ago and haven't had any interest in participating in drama. Acting maliciously towards us was not appropriate. I just wanted to work on my own small corner of the internet doing silly stuff for fun. And that's all I'd really like to say on it. I've made healthy steps to move on and move forward. And then he also shares the other 3 people's threads. Then on April 28th, Blair Iilluminaughtii posted a response video and it was like 43 minutes long. And it was called Iilluminaughtii Exposed, and the thumbnail that she made looks pretty much like all the thumbnails that like all the other drama channels are posting. So if you didn't actually look at who posted the video, you almost would think you're just clicking on a video about the topic, not her video. Another interesting thing is this video has way more views than any other video on her channel, and since this has all come forward, she's lost on average about 100k views on her videos and has lost around at least 200,000 subscribers. So let's get into the video. I took a lot of notes about it, so I will be looking down at them. I'm actually using a different notebook today. I have a WWE notebook. It's a newer one. We got a lot of notes. I've already gone through like 4 pages and I still have all of this. So she starts off with the legal ego situation. She, says that she apologized, but it all started when her editors came to her and she lashed out impulsively about it. So she just briefly talks about that. And in the comments of her video, the editor from Legal Eagle actually responded to her. Apparently he was harassed and doxxed and she shared his name. And this is what he said. Hey, it's Danny, the Legal Eagle's editor. Well, he actually uses his full name as his YouTube name. I appreciate the apology. I personally forgive you for what you did to me. It was super stressful for me when you published my name and Discord, which has my last 2 initials, to your full Twitter following, and I honestly felt hurt and betrayed considering I was a fan of your work. But I do easily forgive, and it really didn't turn out too bad for me in the end. I'm sure this has ended up being more stressful for you than me at this point, though I'd still probably need some time before I'll watch your content regularly again. And once again, Blair has lucked out because somebody is just too nice and just doesn't want to be involved in any drama with her. They let her off the hook, but the public has not. Then she addresses her accused plagiarism from the documentary. She pushes the idea that she was quoting this documentary, and she supports this by saying, look, in my video, when I have those text running across the screen, I actually have quotations around them. And she says, she used that video as a source and listed it. And I'm sorry, but after everything else we've previously discussed so far, that kind of does leave a bad taste in my mouth, especially when she chastised somebody else for using her as a reference or a source, and also claims that she doesn't watch any videos on topics that she's covering, but used this one. But she claims she has gotten better with editing and her style, and she does not make those kinds of mistakes anymore, and she apologizes. She apologizes for the citation not being more clear. Okay, girl. And then immediately says the person who tweeted this was obviously wrong because it was a citation. It wasn't obvious that it was a citation. Also, I'm going to assume that a large chunk of her audience doesn't actually watch her videos, but has them playing in the background for them to listen to, kind of like a podcast, so they wouldn't see these obvious markers of quotations with this text. They wouldn't see it. Then we get to her side of the sad milk situation, which is what a huge chunk of this video is. She says it was basically a Reddit reaction channel and it wasn't taken too seriously, but then she took the lead to set up the channel, the Discord, bringing on a team to help because, everybody lived in different time zones, so it did make scheduling difficult, but she did all the work. She makes it sound like it's a group project where you end up being the only person that's doing all the work for everybody else, or maybe you were that person who didn't do the work and I was one that did all your work. But she says, she just began to feel overworked, and any money that was made was first paid to editors and then divided between the 6 people on the channel. She said she would have to chase them down to get payments to pay the editors, which I don't understand, because if that money is just coming right from the channel, why doesn't it just go into an account and then it's paid out from there? I don't know. I obviously don't understand all the agreements that they had. And because of all of this stuff, she was doing way more work behind the scenes than everybody else, so it was decided that she would get more pay. She wouldn't just be as equal as everybody else. She then said, you know, it started to just fall apart and the channel started to cost them more money than they were making from the channel. So my question is, was this a serious business or was this just like a fun project? Because she said earlier it wasn't taken too seriously, but then she jumped into all this business roles for this channel and yeah, it became profitable, and that's great, and people want profitable YouTube channels, but it can't be something that's not taken seriously and then you're putting all this serious work into it. I'm just confused, but that also happens a lot. So then they had this infamous meeting and she said she wasn't mentally ready for it, but they forced her into it anyway. And in the meeting, she did lash out at one topic and left the call. She then later apologizes to them. Then Blair addresses the clique, or we'll just call him clique, you know. She addresses the past videos that he referenced from 11 to 14 years ago, but says that was not why she ended their friendship. He used to use the R slur a lot in up till 2020, which like, yeah, 2020, we all kind of knew that was a slur. It's like a bad word to say. If you're saying it, you're an or you're edgy, or you're just uneducated. Blair discusses that while she had not seen the past videos at that point, she had heard him saying it before in group gaming chats, and it made her uncomfortable, and she had also talked to Oz, and he agreed that it made him uncomfortable as well. She then addresses Click's tweets of him claiming Blair tried to control his Discord server, but she first jumps to where Click's channel was apparently removed because of sexual content, and she now regrets ever helping get it reinstated. But then she just jumps right back to the Discord. See how she just like slid that little bit of info in there first? She's trying to paint us a picture. So in Click's Discord, a 19-year-old was bragging about having essentially relations with a 12-year-old, and one of his mods reached out to her because they couldn't reach Click. She continues to paint the picture that Click decided to not take any action, and that's why the mods came to her. Blair also brings up another time where somebody in his server was sharing images and there was a minor in the chat, and the minor was saying, hey, please stop sending these, I'm like at a dinner with my mom. And this is another thing that she uses to continue to give us this idea, this image that Click just does not care about minors and will actively put them in danger. So she's not saying that Click has these feelings, but that he is okay with other people having these feelings and fully expressing that in his Discord. But here's the thing though, like nobody's available 24/7, right? That's why you have moderators that you hope you can trust enough to take care of these situations. But you know, sometimes that's not always the case, right? She ends it with saying she regrets ever being friends with the Click and wants nothing to do with him and hopes to never be associated with him again. Well, no apology there, yikes. The person that she spends the most time addressing is Wonder, or Wonderstruck. Wonder was an employee, a contractor. She states the Xmas video, she didn't ask him to do it, he just did it. Well, he explains why he did it, because he knew it was not up to par with the channel's integrity, the channel's standards, her standards. But she doesn't believe him that he missed Christmas with his family, as the video went live on Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day. Wonder would complain about living in Austin, Texas, that his friends were terrible, that his car was almost done, that he was frustrated about his channel's performance. But this pulled at her heartstrings, I guess, so she decided to help him. She flew him to Colorado, and he eventually moved into the house that Oz bought and that he and Blair were gonna live in. And Wonder apparently paid no bills. Oz drove down to Texas to like officially move him and his dog, James. I love that for a dog. And Blair hired him to edit clips from live streams. The problem is that Blair Iilluminaughtii doesn't really do live streams, so there was only 2 streams for him to utilize any clicks from. But she kept paying him despite not having any work for him, out of the kindness of her own heart, being so charitable. She then says that he would act inappropriately in chats and didn't complete tasks given to him. But you also said that you didn't really have any work for him, but just continued to pay him. Once again, I'm confused because I don't know if she had work for him, if she didn't have work for him. What are you paying him for? And then she bought this guy a car. She bought him a car and entered into a rent-to-own agreement with him over a new car. And she shows where she and Oz took out a loan to buy this person a car. What? What? How long did she know this guy? Like he said they lived together for a month, so she didn't even live with him that long and she'd already bought him a car? Apparently I have crappy friends. Who am I kidding? I don't have any friends. Honestly though, it's like super weird and feels very manipulative to buy someone a car that you barely know, and then they're also living in your house and you're their boss. It just creates a really, really skewed power dynamic. She then goes through like financial agreements, how like he would have ended up saving money with paying her versus like how much they were paying on the loan and all that. She also addresses his claims of how essentially his life would be better without ever have meeting her, and he would have like $20,000 and stuff. And she basically breaks down like finances of like, well, you didn't pay bills and I paid you this bunch a month, so like where did all the money go? Well, maybe he had to spend his money on food, or you know, he had a dog that he had to, you know, have vet bills for, or perhaps he had like outstanding debts that he was paying off as well. Like student loans are no joke. But also what your employee does with the money that you pay them is not your business. It just shows that she was concerned with controlling his finances completely. Blair breaks down the entire rent-to-own agreement that she had with Wonder about this car. He was supposed to get it insured, which he apparently never did, and you do have to have insurance on vehicles here. He also moved out of the state. He went back home to Texas, I believe, and that was something in the lease agreement. They determined the car would be staying in that state. So she went through and repossessed the car. She personally repossessed the car. She flew down to Texas, called the non-emergency line to tell the police what she was doing, and they even offered her an escort. She actually shows photos of the state of the car when she picks it up, the condition. It had a lot of garbage in it, and it had some random clothing items. It did also have a very large crack across the windshield, which, I mean, that can be from anything. When people have like a crack on their windshield, like that can come from a rock, so I don't necessarily blame somebody for that, because you can't always control when things just fly at your car. But she was still pretty upset. And then she also showed that like the glove box, the hinge, the handle looked like it was broken. So the car was not in good shape when she picked it up. Then we dive into Blair discussing Wonder's mental health and expressed that he at some point wanted to unalive himself. She called his local PT to have them do a wellness check. Then Wonder let her know that he actually spoke with his therapist, and his therapist calmed him down and he felt better. Then she addresses the therapist that she helped him find. You know, she says that she recommended her former therapist. This then created a conflict of interest for the therapist, which I was confused about. Is that really a conflict of interest? Like, is it really a conflict of interest to just know that your friend goes to the same therapist? Because a therapist, correct me if I'm wrong, is just supposed to be an unbiased person that is there to give you help and guidance through whatever you're trying to deal with. So I don't totally know why it creates a conflict of interest. Maybe it creates a conflict of interest for Blair, not the therapist. But if you are a therapist or a psychologist or a psychiatrist, let me know. Does that create a conflict of interest? But because of this conflict of interest, Blair wasn't allowed to see this therapist anymore. Once again, though, I'm confused because she called this person her former therapist and then said she wasn't allowed to see them anymore. So were they your former therapist before you recommended them? Then Blair discusses her perceived neglect of his dog. She has a dog named Casper, which rumors she got from a puppy mill, and said Wonder didn't work to help socialize their dogs together at all. And when she was out of the house, he would just lock Blair's dog in a room. He wouldn't clean up after his dog. And one time his dog actually bit her dog in the ear, causing it to bleed. So for her dog's safety, she sent her dog to live somewhere else. I mean, they could have been roughhousing. I don't know. Ears do have a lot of nerves and blood vessels, so it's kind of like when if you like cut your scalp open, like a lot of blood would come out. So I'm not really sure if that's something to be overall worried about, but yes, it's still your baby. And then she talks about how one night she was blamed for his dog going missing because he left his dog outside and went to the bar while she was in bed, so she had no idea his dog was out and his dog was missing all night. She did help him find his dog the next day using the Nextdoor app, which also, have you guys ever used the Nextdoor app? I got it just so I could see what was going on in my neighborhood, and honestly, it's just like a bunch of Karens for the most part complaining about like God knows what. But I'm also not surprised that Blair is on it to spy on everybody around her and get as much info as she can. Then Blair talks about that picture that Wonder showed and where he called her a hoarder. And like I said, I believe hoarding is a very serious mental illness, and shading a hoarder for their hoard it's not gonna make the situation better. It could make them spiral more and resent you even more for it. And it also just kind of makes you look like an asshole. But she also was talking about his unaliving attempt, so I guess it's fair game. Blair states, the reason this room is in this state is because she was still moving into the house and unpacking. And this was a room that was designated for unpacking things. I don't get it. A room for unpacking things? Maybe it's just me, but I would just take the stuff into the room it's supposed to be in and unpack it there. Like my clothes, I would take them into my room and unpack them there. My movies, I would take them into my living room and unpack them there. My dishes, I'd take them into my kitchen. Bathroom stuff, computer stuff, wherever my computer's going. Maybe I've never heard of an unpacking room before. Maybe I'm the only one. Regardless, though, this room is trash for being an unpacking room. Like, there's like drawers hanging open and stuff. So what is that all about? And apparently this room was off limits to Wonder. So he wasn't allowed to unpack in this room. So him taking a picture of this room showed his blatant disrespect and the fact that he has no problem crossing boundaries. Which, like, I do get. Nobody really wants their, like, messy room posted on the internet. And at the end of this, Blair apologizes for ever being friends with Wonder because apparently it obviously, like, hurt him. Wow. And the last little bit of this video focuses on Oz, and she says this all through like a teary emotional voice, but also, you know, it's just a pyramid head, so you can't really tell what her actual emotion on her face is, because like anybody can make it sound like they're emotional when you're just hearing their voice. Blair says this is one of the hardest though, because they were very close and he was very supportive with her while her mom was sick and helping her out with her dog through her tears. She thanks him for his support because his friendship means more than he'll ever know. She had hoped they could have repaired their friendship, but she sees now that that isn't possible, unfortunately. So her conclusion is she takes accountability for her actions that she's discussed. She says her actions, but she still doesn't mention like other things that people have brought up, like the whole Cruel World Happy Mind situation, and she is not even gonna mention Tommy C and the crew like at all. And the comments were overwhelmingly not good in her favor. My favorite one though is from somebody called Rowan Prince. They said, Blair, your audience is tired. Constantly making mistakes like this, you're always solidifying yourself in your mind before the legal eagle incident as somebody who is consistently in conflict, quick to act, and untrustworthy. Your content is fantastic, it's clean, it's appealing. You and your team do a great job, and if I need well-made content to watch while I work and study your channel, it's one of my go-tos. But I'm embarrassed to be one of your viewers because of how you've made a complete hash of things. You've been digging yourself into this hole for a long time. You may have gotten away with everything if you had just learned to leave people be. I think this is probably where I'll have to stop tuning in. And then somebody said, same here. I unsubscribed and she brought up unrelated things about other creators that really didn't have anything to do with the legal eagle drama. I'd never known about the stuff had she not brought it up and proceeded to make everyone else look bad in a situation other than herself. She really blasted pretty personal stuff that the other creators didn't do when talking about her. And why did she wait so long to bring this up until she got called out? And then another person, Roberto3G, said, as a person who struggles with his own depression, it speaks volumes when you include the messages. I asked myself, what if the people I trusted in my time of need did that to me later on? Are they secretly saving my messages for later on? It was just an awful feeling and that part didn't sit right with me. Well, that and the other things in this video, that part left me disgusted. No matter what transpires between us in the future, I would never air somebody's unalive intentions like that, even if I hated them. This is also a good comment. Kai says, there are seriously a lot of moments throughout this video where the message seems to read, sorry, and you're an awful person that I never should have associated with. I don't think I've ever witnessed that with an apology before. And a creator whose name is Your Ass is Grass. It took me a while to figure out how to pronounce that name and I really enjoy it. This thing reeks of manipulation, not owning up to what she did and instead trying to downplay her own actions by pointing the finger at others because, but their behavior was worse, to shift blame towards her victims and get your attention off what she did, including someone's unalive messages to embarrass and shame them when they weren't even really all that relevant to the issue at hand. I'd seen it before, I've dealt with it before, I'm not okay with supporting people like that. Go offline and get help, Blair. So yes, in the end, most people were not accepting this, surprisingly though, because she has been accused of curating her comment section. She left this one alone. The other weird thing is that Blair has just continued posting videos. She's posted several videos since. I haven't actually watched or looked at the comments, so I'm not really sure how she is being received on them currently, but with all of this going on, I'm sure negativity is slipping in. However, she might be deleting it from those videos. A lot of the comments also mention that Blair apparently posted Wonder's unaliving note, and I have not seen that anywhere. I do not know where that was posted, but if she did, that is some of the most vile, disgusting shit I've ever heard of in my whole life. Then Click made a video, and ooh boy, this video blew so much stuff out of the water. Let's just get into it. Once again, I have a ton of notes on this. First note on this is this guy's voice is literally amazing. I might have to start watching his channel just to lull me to sleep at night because he has one of the most beautiful voices I've ever heard. He should probably be doing ASMR, voiceovers, story times. I don't know what kind of content he makes. It looks like gaming reaction stuff. He has over 1 million subscribers though. But anyway, his video is called Iilluminaughtii and Sad Milk, and he references his Twitter thread, you know, everything that he said in there, and instead he's gonna take this video to focus on the behavior that happened leading up to and after he left. His main issue is that she would create gossip about him and the other people who left, and that she would use others to do her dirty work, never saying things outright herself, but getting other people to say them publicly to kind of plant that seed. Then she would take that opportunity to agree with the discords and her claims that he did nothing. He says he couldn't do anything because all of this happened at 2 a.m. his time and he was asleep. Like most human beings need sleep. He was asleep. And when he awoke, he saw that the person had already been banned 14 minutes after it had happened at 2:14 a.m. his time. So he wasn't aware that any of this had happened, and apparently the situation had already been resolved by the time he woke up. But Click maintains that neither he nor his Discord mods accept or condone any of this type of behavior. When he woke up, his staff Discord channels were pretty much in flames because Blair's team had crossed over and their two teams were now fighting for essentially like control of his Discord. Click at that time when he woke up had no idea what was going on, and it took several hours of digging and messaging people to find out even what was going on. And this person had already been banned from the Discord before Blair's team had moved in an attempt in like this weird Discord military coup. He said he messaged her during this whole team takeover thing and they seemed fine. Blair painted that One Topic was disgusted by Click's inaction and left this group call, when Click says in reality he just didn't want some random creeps like messages on his hard drive, which is smart. And Click says he and One Topic are still good friends to this day. He also talks about the person who was sharing and he says, look, specifically it was not actually like pictures, drawings, and he discusses with Blair and she shared none of this and pushed the narrative that Click just didn't care about protecting minors from predators. Click says he did make changes and to the mod rules because of some of the stuff that was going on, so he addressed it even though she says that he never did. And he feels that she like escalated this situation in an attempt to gain control of his Discord. I still don't get why, it's just so freaking weird. Then Click focuses on his use of slurs, the R word specifically. He says he asked Oz about it because she said that Oz was disgusted, and Oz said he wasn't really sure what she was talking about. He told Click that he may have just gone along with whatever Iilluminaughtii Blair was saying to feel accepted, because Oz says, you know, he did go along with a lot of what it is because he also lived with her. Oz also apologized to Click. Oz says in his DMs with Click he would literally watch Blair like spin the truth and omit things and give just enough truth that would sway people to her side. But Oz says he really doesn't remember Click ever actually like using that word or saying it frequently, if anything. He also doesn't remember Click using the N-word anywhere, and he apologizes to Click for going along with what Blair was saying. Click also calls out the fact that she says she could never be friends with somebody that used slurs, which I mean, I couldn't either, but it's funny. But she was still friends with him for a long time. And also, I mean, like, she worked with Tommy C and the crew. I've said this a couple times in this video. They're edgy people who like use slurs and are like joking about it and stuff, so she didn't have a problem with it then. So I mean, like, she was okay with overlooking it for a long time. I assume that was until she like built her audience of people who would not find this kind of language acceptable, so she determined that she could no longer find it acceptable either, which is just like a little placatey, but okay. Click says he didn't know the R word was a slur until 2020, which at first I'm like, what the who doesn't know that that's a slur? But then I looked up where he's from, and he is Swedish. He lives in Sweden. English isn't his first language, and I'm going to assume that he probably spent a lot of time learning English playing like video games and stuff. And when you play on video game servers, well, the language you hear is pretty abhorrent. So I can understand if you're hearing that word all the time, you wouldn't realize that it's a slur. It just comes from, you know, not being educated on it. Just like how people still use the word today in English-speaking countries and actually do not know that it is a slur because it is something that is so commonly used around their social circle or within their family. Now, of course, we do have the internet now, so it's a little easier to find out when something isn't acceptable, but it all comes down to being educated on the topic, which apparently he wasn't at the time. I mean, the other day I saw a TikTok where two students were convincing a foreign exchange student that Scooby-Doo was a slur, and she believed it because English isn't her first language. I did think that was really mean though, because I love Scooby-Doo, and Scooby-Doo is never a slur. He is a saint among dogs. But Click says some people came to him and told him that that word is offensive, and some of these people were neurodivergent and told him how it hurt him, and he realized the error of his ways, and he has worked to omit that from his everyday language. He doesn't say it in videos, and he has actually worked to omit it from like past content as well. Then he laughs at Iilluminaughtii saying that she helped him recover his channel. He was actually in like a management like network thing. They're actually the ones that helped him get his channel back because they were able to talk to YouTube directly and do this. And this is where things are starting to feel really Creepshow 2.0. So Sad Milk account posts to Twitter that Salty, One Topic, and Click are leaving. And then not long after, Iilluminaughtii posts a tweet about not being a gray area and people need to take action against that. And this resulted in Wonderstruck even making a video about these claims, which he has now retracted and removed. A community post was made in the Sad Milk's community tabs, and Click shows that a lot of comments were being deleted. He does apologize for some of his old videos from when he was younger and in high school. Click shares some screenshots that were sent to him. They were DMs on Discord between somebody and Blair, and specifically about her hatred towards Click and One Topic. And he just shows screenshot after screenshot of multiple conversations of people talking trash about them, working to dig up old videos on him, everything. It was just like a non-stop hate parade on these guys. He also shows that she did have spies in his Discord staff that would report back to her because they actually had a screenshot of his Discord addressing his staff, and then it was shared to her Discord. And in this screenshot, he is explaining to his staff that he and One Topic left because of how tense it got, and because of that, some of the mod team left because they were part of the Sad Milk team. They were not actually his moderators. And she says he's lying about what happening. And Click looks just very confused. He's like, what am I lying about? I'm just telling them that we left and that some people left the Discord. What am I lying about? But Blair twisted as he is pinning all this on me, which I mean, now we kind of know it is all your fault. Tommy C said this in his stream about the whole Cruel World Happy Mind situation, that Blair is just creating a smear campaign. That is definitely what it looks like she's doing in this Discord, where she's just talking so much trash nonstop. She is working to create a well-oiled smear campaign against Click and anybody else she doesn't like. And then this is the biggest bomb of them all. Like, this is where it really gets crazy, and she morphs into full Shannon Creepshow art mode. Click shows a conversation from somebody who is blacked out because they want to remain anonymous. Blair says she will pay this person $200 to dig through raw audio from Sad Milk recordings to find a recording of Click using the R slur. They have a screenshot where this person agrees, and this person also includes a screenshot of a Cash App payment from her. The person also says, I don't really have a big deal with this word. It's kind of weird that she is throwing a big hoopla about it because she says this word in private. This conversation was with Oz, and Oz says, would you say that for the record? And the person says they don't really have real proof because they've heard it, but they can assure that that she does use that word. It's so incredibly unhinged to be paying people to dig up dirt. Like, Blair is chronically online and obsessed. And the obsession is just gonna go further. Literally, this just continues to get worse and worse. Because then he shares another Discord screenshot with this person talking to Blair because they found some things in an old video of his where I believe he says the N-word. This is that video that's from like anywhere from 11 to 14 years ago. But Iilluminaughtii says in this screenshot after learning they found the clip, she says, the alt account is gonna love this post. Next, we see a screenshot of conversation, and in this conversation, there is a draft about how terrible the guys who love sad milk are. And this is actually a Reddit post that was made in the sad milk subreddit, not posted by Iilluminautie's profile, but by another profile. She was pretending to be a fan and is working to sway all of the other fans over to be on Blair's side versus Click and One Topic and Salty. In this sock account post, she says that Blair must have seen one of Click's earlier streams where he said the N-word and is pushing the narrative that Click is the reason that Sad Milk broke up and that Blair was stabbed in the back. And then she also leaves comments, like long comments, underneath her own sock account post. And then shares these Reddit posts on a matching sock account on Twitter. You can see in this video that Click's face is just... he's gobsmacked. He can't believe that she has this alt account made to post this harassing stuff about him. Because he says this Twitter account constantly harassed him and anybody he's ever been connected with on the internet, essentially. Any coworkers, past or present, friends, and they were constantly harassing him through several months of 2020 and 2021. Even showing screenshots where she would harass people who were on the podcast or would argue with his fans on Twitter. He tried to ignore this as much as possible, but he literally looked so shocked to find out that this was her the whole time. And like I said, this is where she evolves into Creepshow. It's like a Pokemon situation. I mean, he looks so upset by all this, and yes, this is horribly violating. And then he also shares a screenshot of Oz having a conversation with Iilluminaughtii, showing that Oz knew that this was Iilluminaughtii, that she was making this to harass him, and he is telling her to stop doing this, that he is not supporting her in this, and she needs to stop. And this conversation looks like it took place in January, and Oz did say he stopped supporting her in this terrible behavior in January. She tells him that she won't do this anymore, but apparently she just continued on. He also addresses like the payment issue and is like, look, like we got that figured out. But honestly, that stuff is like toothpicks compared to all of this. It means nothing. Click then shames her for sharing Wonder's potential side note, and he points out that the relationship that she had with Wonder was completely transactional and very skewed in one side because she pretty much had control of all aspects of his life. Work, home, car. That's not a balanced relationship. And he ends this video with just saying he just wants this to stop and he wants Blair to leave them alone. And I mean, oh my god, that's so unhinged. That is like next level Creepshow art stuff. It's just crazy. And I thought this was the end of it. And as I was finishing writing this up and I was gonna start filming so I could get this edited, two more things have come out. I haven't watched Wonder's video yet, so I am going to watch it. But the first thing I wanted to talk about was another tweet that led me to a Facebook post about Iilluminaughtii completely violating people's privacy and plagiarizing their stories. So let me share this with you. First, I actually saw this on Twitter, but it links to Facebook, and it's from somebody called Mombie? I'm sorry, I'm gonna butcher your name, but it says, my experience with Blair, aka Iilluminaughtii. And she says, I want to start this off by stating I wasn't planning on talking about this in a post at all, but since it has come to my attention that someone is trying to yet again use my experience for a video, I feel I have to tell my story. Enough bad stuff has come out about the subject of the story that I didn't feel the need to make a public post about my experience, but alas, I feel I must to prevent it being distorted. So here it goes. Recently, there's been a lot of drama going on with a YouTuber named Blair, who goes by the pseudonym Iilluminaughtii on YouTube. Blair has become popular reading Reddit posts from the subreddit r/anti-MLM. This has made her following largely compromised of members of the anti-MLM community. I've never hidden this story. I discussed it over the years in responses to people on my page and in Facebook anti-MLM groups. I just didn't see the need to add to everything else with a public post like this, and it does not change current events, nor is it as bad as what she has done to those speaking out now. I only am doing so because I feel it is my story to tell and I want it to be told accurately. In August of 2021, it was the height of a fight against an MLM company Black Oxygen Organics, or BOO. I started and led an anti-MLM activism group named Boo is Woo. Through collaborative efforts with other activists, ex-BOO reps, and the very dedicated Boo is Woo groups, we helped take BOO down. At the time, the Boo is Woo admin team consisted of my friends and fellow activists Stacy and Haley, admins of multiple anti-MLM groups like Sounds Like an MLM, but okay, Jessica, creator of the anti-MLM podcast, The Persuasion Pitch, Ashley, creator of the science podcast, The Sheeple Shepherd, whoa, that's a tongue twister, Sheeple Shepherd, a dietitian and nutritionist and anti-MLM YouTuber, which I think I actually did include Kate in a video that I made about Jessica Hickson and the whole deworming thing, so I actually am familiar with this woman. And Heather, creator of the anti-MLM group and page Actually No Karen, and Hunter, admin of multiple anti-MLM groups like Actually No Karen. Some of the admins were active and some were not. I'm mentioning it because it was just some of these admins, Stacy, Kate, Jess, and Ashley, who were involved in the Blair situation and decision-making process. Ashley alerted me that one of Blair's writers had requested to join Boo is Woo. As you'll see in the screenshots below, this made me uncomfortable and I needed to think it over. On one hand, Blair has a large channel and this could help get the word out. On the other hand, she had self-isolated herself from the anti-MLM movement and was not involved in any activism, denounced the movement, and claimed we all just shamed reps. She has lied about and slandered fellow creator Madison of Cruel World Happy Mind on YouTube, and lied about not knowing the movement even existed. It didn't sit right with me or my admin team that she then wanted to make a monetized video off our hard work, the work of informants, the work of those who were actually involved in activism, and the work of the anti-MLM movement group members who worked tirelessly collecting and reporting information on Boo. Ultimately, I decided to not add the writer to the group. They were declined and then requested to join again. One of the less active admins who hadn't seen the discussion on why we didn't want them in the group let them in. The writer was in for about 2 hours when I realized and kicked them out of the group. The writer then emailed me where I explicitly stated I do not consent to the group being used for Blair's video. So they specifically said, we do not want anything that you have seen in this group to be used in your video, and that is why we initially did not want you to join. And this writer decided, well, I'm just gonna try and join again. Or maybe they told Blair they were declined and Blair said, well, keep trying until they let you in. Blair still made the video, and to this day my group is listed as the second source directly after Boo's own website. It is very clear from the video content that much of this information was taken directly from Boo is Woo. Information in the group included personal stories, legal information, and insider information that could put people at legal risk. Privacy and permission are very important. When her video came out, multiple admins and friends aware of the situation were upset and decided to call Blair out in her video comments. All of the comments were deleted, no action or rectification was taken, no discussion was had, and everyone was silenced. Later in the Boo saga, after Boo was successfully taken down, I was featured in an NBC article and Vice News article about Boo for my activism work bringing attention to Boo and leading the activism group. I also made a writer with the consumer advocacy nonprofit Tina aware of and provided the majority of the evidence for the fact that Youngevity was still selling Boo. That resulted in Tina article exposing Youngevity. Blair made a second video about Boo based on these articles. She used my image, my word, and my name, which she pronounces wrong. It's Kira, not Sira, in the video, and never spoke to me about it. They are public articles, and I can understand anyone can make a video on it, but after her using my private group as a main source for her first video, despite my non-consent, and despite her being called out for using information she didn't have permission to use, it just felt like another punch to the gut of somebody using me and my activism work and the activism work of my friends for monetized content without our consent and under the guise of feigned appreciation. To me and the admins involved in the situation, and considering what she has done even prior to this, that made it clear to us what type of person Blair was. She was willing to use other people's work without permission for her own gain. She was willing to lie and distort the truth. She lists the group, but does not credit the individual sources. One could even argue she was a plagiarizer. She didn't care about other people's feelings, their work, their time, their energy, or their consent. This is now clearly a pattern of behavior. Many of those same issues are brought up again in the current drama, and I sincerely empathize with those involved who have also experienced this type and far, far worse disrespect from Blair. I can't say I'm surprised though. I'm glad the public is getting to see just how Blair treats people. Hopefully this prevents her from doing the same to others. And then she shares a series of screenshots between her and admins, and so she shares the screenshots. screenshots, and it says, let me think about that one. I really didn't like how she treated Madison and how she claims she's not part of the anti-MLM community. Not sure I'm okay with them using our group and info. And the other person said, for sure, y'all know best. I'm just here along for the ride. Madison is like a sweet angel, and she went on a big YouTuber's podcast and trash talked her. They worked it out, but I'm still not okay with it. I have a hard time letting go of people doing stuff to people I consider friends. And they said, yeah, you got the insider info. It's just kind of your world. I'm just strolling along here. I'm glad to be here. Madison is super sweet. And then somebody else says, yes, I fully agree. Blair does not want to be seen as part of the community, so I feel nervous letting her people in. I feel like they take stuff from the community but not support it. This woman says, yes, like would the group be credited? My page? Heather's page, anyone's podcast, TikTok, or YouTube channel that has been actively involved in the group? Would they be helping contribute to the cost of testing and involved in the video content to go with it? Would it be recognized this is an anti-MLM community-based group that the anti-MLM community provided the info for? Or would the information just be scalped and posted for her financial benefit with no recognition of those that did the work? Because I feel like it's going to be the latter, giving her previous actions and statements. I personally would rather the creators we have who are actively working on this get their due credit and recognition for their work by making their own content with it. Like, why is it her writer and not her getting involved to help take down this company with the rest of us? It just doesn't sit right with me. And I think this might have been shown like just out of order, because then she does also have a screenshot of them trying to join, and it says, where did you find this group? I was told about it from a friend. I currently write for Iilluminaughtii, a channel on YouTube that combats MLM claims. I'd love to learn more about BOO so I can inform the others on this channel. Why do you want to join? To combat false MLM claims and better understand BOO's claims. And somebody said thoughts, and they said, I don't think so. I'm not comfortable with her using the group for video content when we already have 3 YouTubers who are friends and happily part of the anti-MLM community and take part. But then this writer emailed her, and she said, the Iilluminaughtii writer emailed me. What did they want? And is that common for YouTube creators to have writers? And she said they wanted to know why they were denied. She's doing a video on BOO like we expected. They're like, well, do your own research. And the email said, hi, my name is Ali Zagama. I don't know how to say it. I'm sorry. I'm currently a scriptwriter for Iilluminaughtii, and I research MLMs and discuss their harmful business practices. I'm currently researching BOO, and I found your Facebook group. However, after requesting to join, I was denied. I was just curious the reason, really hoping to see the false medical claims being made. And the response was, hi, the reason you were denied is nothing personal to you. As an activist who has worked in the anti-MLM community for the past 4 years, I am uncomfortable with Blair's previous statements of not wanting to be associated with the community. The group is the work of the community and myself, and I don't feel it's right to have somebody who has publicly stated they want no association with us to then gain content and money from our work. I want to apologize that you were let in by an admin who had not caught up on our admin chat and has been removed. I am happy to have you in as an individual, but do not consent to the group content being used for Blair's video. I can suggest that you look at information I have posted publicly on my page, which includes insider info, the FDA holdup, look at blank TikToks on BOO, and the following hashtags are great for finding false health claims on BOO for your research. And then the next screenshot is the Facebook group being listed as a source for the video. So Blair has no problem with harassing people, doxing people, stalking people, essentially, perpetually online, digging through her former friends' entire internet footprint, and then is actually violating people's personal and actually legal, putting people legally at risk and stealing private information from private Facebook groups. Ugh! And then to top it all off, Wonder has posted a video which I have not watched, so I am actually going to pause recording this. I'm going to go watch that video like I need to add anything else to this video right now. But I'm going to watch that video, I'm going to take some notes, and then I'm going to come back and I'm going to let you know what happened in that video. Alright you guys, hi! It is actually the next day. After watching that video, I had to of course take notes, and it was an hour and 20 minutes long. And then surprisingly, I had other things to do in my life, you know, cook dinner and do some cleaning. I had other stuff. I didn't intend for this video to be this long, but I wanted to come back and update us all, and that is why I am technically wearing a different shirt. I don't really know how much you guys can see this anyway, because I don't know if you know this, I'm kind of partially blind. I actually really can't see a monitor or anything. I just rely on my camera to keep me in focus. But enough of that ranting. I want to come in and give a whole breakdown of Wonder's video, but I realized yesterday after I finished filming and I was uploading everything that I actually did not talk about a Twit longer that Wonder had made in response to Blair Iilluminautii's Illuminaughtii's initial video, so I wanted to read that first and then go into his video, which greatly expands on his twit longer. So the tweet is my brief response to Blair. As many of you are aware, Blair has come public with her side of the story. The Sad Milk members and I expected either this or her burying it. I'm aware of how opinions are formed, so I will explain briefly since I am working on a video response. I work full time, so it may take a moment to complete. Blair has come forward with a lot of information that I did not initially come forward with. This was an active decision on my part. A lot of this information is part of a pending small claims lawsuit. My county is entirely backed up, and in the state of Texas, I have 2 years to file, which has given Blair ample time to do the right thing. I will get to that first, but let's rewind as I want to address a handful of things. I'd like to start with the blatant lie on my role as a Sad Milk editor. I did not become an editor to cover my share of the joint editor payments. I was living paycheck to paycheck, yet always paid my share. I became an editor for Sad Milk after they loved a demo I submitted. I was so new to contract work that I personally thought $20 was fair pay for my work, which obviously I was compensated way more than that. In my span of Sad Milk, I edited roughly 3 to 4 videos. Sad Milk was a channel that lasted almost over a year. I was not an active editor, so to say I paid editors via my own edits is inaccurate. About 3 months in, Sad Milk became profitable and we stopped doing shared payments because the money from the channel went to the editors rather than coming out of Sad Milk members' pockets. We had our Sad Milk fund and then we had editors who got paid not via Sad Milk payroll. When I did edits, I was an editor. I made the claim that I had delayed payments from her. This was due to her former channel member telling me 2 years later that Blair had been spending money on food, cars, etc., while lying to employees about why money is being moved around and payments are delayed. He knows who he is. That is for him to tell if he chooses to do so. I am not speaking on the click allegations because that is his story to tell, which he intends to do so. Regarding the Christmas vlog, I helped last second with an expensive video that we all put work into because the person Blair contracted did not do the job that I believed met the standards of our channel. A person Blair later herself fired. I took on the role as editor last second to help out a channel I thought we all cared about while editing content of my own. For context on this video, we all flew to Colorado to film an IRL video. Blair spent large amounts of money so we could build gingerbread houses. It was fun, it was expensive. She hired an editor and never checked in on his updates. It was a Christmas Eve video, so when the video was barely on time, I was stressed that it was not up to quality for a video we all worked really hard to make. Sad Milk represents my name, Blair's name, and Oz's name. Blair wanted help with the channel. Blair made it clear she felt she did not receive help. So from where I'm sitting, it comes across as contradictory when she attacks my way of helping. I do not believe Blair would have been okay with a scuffed, audio-popping, bleak video going live on the channel because she never checked in on the editor she hired. If I am wrong, then I apologize. Christmas Day. You stated the video went live on Christmas Eve, so it doesn't make sense that I would miss Christmas with my brother and father. Let me explain. I just stayed up the entire night prior working on content for my own channel, then pulled a second all-nighter to fix our Christmas Eve video. My sleep schedule was screwed for that video, and so come Christmas, I was too exhausted to see my family due to overwork and last-minute fixes. Editorial exhaustion. Blair goes on to inaccurately describe my living situation. She also openly spoke of the city where I lived. While I have been open about it in the past, I do not believe she would be pleased with me for revealing that she lives in Colorado Springs. Other points I will further expand on later are as follows. I never complained about my car breaking down. It was not old. It was a 2011 sedan. That's totally newer than my car. I never said my car would break down if I made that trip. I did not want to take a small sedan back and forth when I could clear 4K from selling it. My brother instead got the car for free after I read that wrong. I thought he said his brother was dead. My brother instead got the car for free after his died. My complaint with the car was that it had a massive dent in it from someone who rear-ended me. So it was cosmetic. It was not functional. I did not have multiple roommates. I had one, singular. My friends are not terrible people. They are family. I was frustrated by lack of dishes being done, being locked out of my home twice by my roommate. We were growing apart. I love them, but they don't do content. I don't hold that against them. I just wanted to meet a circle who did what I did. I never once asked for Blair's help in terms of cars or living situations. In fact, I declined offers due to not wanting to be a freeloader of any kind. Blair says I did not pay rent, yet she leaves out the fact that I was only supposed to stay until August when I took that job in February. This was because Blair was building a home to get into real estate. I was supposed to move in and pay her every month. She was going to be my landlord. When I had ended my lease, I was notified last second that December would be the new date. I stated I was was uneasy here. The editing job was not easy due to her erratic schedule. She also only had one video for me to do, and she had an editor doing another video. I was given an extension because my computer's software bricked itself. I flew to Colorado to pick up another computer. I came home and worked for 20 hours to get the video done. I was locked out of editor files, then fired for not meeting deadlines. I was not kept on payroll for any longer. I asked before Blair had work how I could pull my weight. Blair's podcast, her soap shop, I did and asked every day what I could do. Blair did not stream, and she had no schedule or anything an editor would need from a professional boss. She did not want short clips. She wanted 20 to 40-minute VODs, and this was not a challenge for me. The deadline fell on computers, not my ability as an editor. All the while, Blair was subtweeting me online as my boss. That's terrible business practices. The claim I was speaking inappropriately on forums is false. I have never been made aware of this, and if it were true, why did Blair not reach out to me as my boss? This is a baseless claim with no weight. Why did I go off on Blair? Because I was being harassed by my employer, who had a hand on every aspect of my life. My car, my money, my home, but there is not a dollar value amount you can pay me to be a verbal punching bag. The reason I went home was to visit my dad because I felt trapped under Blair's roof. As for the car, the contract was not legally binding. I had an ex-police officer, a former contract maker, and a lawyer look over it. It's a fluff contract. I did have insurance. The car never resided in Austin, Texas. I was not living there. My address had been changed to Colorado Springs. I discussed with Oz, due to Blair and I not being on speaking terms, about returning the car. Blair asked that I pay the depreciation value, and I agreed, meaning I would pay even without having the car. When I asked to see what I was legally bound to, I never received an answer. Blair then, in the dead of night, came to my father's home, revoked the car along with all of my possessions inside it. The car was a mess due to me living in it. The windshield was cracked when a semi-truck kicked a rock into it. See, that's what I said. Like, you can't control when a tiny little rock flies at your car at like 30 miles an hour just out of nowhere and cracks it. I went to the BMW dealership and they said I could bring back later. Wait, he has a BMW? She bought him a BMW. What the heck? Went to the BMW dealership and they said I could bring it back later that week. They could fix it, no problem. I was there due to blowing a flat. Blair has record of this. I would not have returned the car in that state, and I never intend to. Blair revoked the car because she knew I was not legally bound to it. I had no way to retrieve my belongings that were taken in the car and in Colorado. I had no money to my name due to moving, insurance, and monthly car payments, followed by deposits and application fees for apartments. I sent multiple legal demand letters for my belongings after Blair said she would make arrangements to return them, which she never followed through with. My father contacted on my behalf for months. Her lawyer said he would go after my dad and I for harassment. Legalities are not threats. I was and continue to be within my rights. As per the contract, it was not legally binding. However, if it were, I had paid for a full month of the car and it was repossessed before that time. So if that were legally binding, Blair would owe me the remaining amount for that month. I will touch on more serious topics such as my mental health, my dog, and further information regarding what I briefly mentioned here when I compile a video. I work full time, and as you can imagine, I'm very drained by this situation. Before I go, I would like to touch on one more thing. I'm aware doubt is cast on my claims and that Blair has receipts, but I'd like to point out a very blatant lie. It was stated in the video that I went into a room that was off limits and used for unboxing, and my intention was to humiliate Blair and Oz. I'd like to point out that Blair scrutinized the image, which is why I don't understand why she could not see the bed in the photo was purchased after I had already left. I could not have taken that photo, nor did I go into that room. I did not want to share every image due to it not being my home, rather my friend's. Blair, I didn't take these photos. Oz Media took them. This is the state of your home 2 years after I left. To watch you manipulate my friend through this video while you trashed his home and made him live in fear horrifies me. Oz reached out to me a few months ago telling me he finally saw you for who you were. He apologized to me profusely, and I had my doubts at first, but we are working on our friendship, and Oz will always hold a special place in my heart. No matter what, he is my friend, and you blatantly lied about a photo he took. Also, to say I don't care about my dog when Blair let Casper live in these conditions is beyond hypocritical. I will touch base on this more in my video, but I love both Casper and James. While Blair was gone, I would sit in my room with them, and both of them, and watch videos of Hawks until we all napped. Oh, I totally put on videos for my cats too. Like, well, really only one of my cats likes to watch videos. We call them her stories, and she likes watching little mice and stuff. She's not really interested in the birds, like chipmunks, little rodents. Here, one of them screaming right now. Yeah? Anyway, this post has gone on long enough. Please allow me to properly voice my thoughts and be mentally sound enough to create a video to fully comb through everything and share the receipts needed. In the meantime, please feel free to review my screenshots as they have brief breakdowns of what they are. Until my video, I will remain offline. Please be well and take care of yourselves. After all this, I am still not afraid of you, Blair. I know who I am. My friends, family, boyfriend and audience know who I am. You can't take that away from me. And then he has like links to screenshots, which he actually posts in this video. Okay, so that was just the whole Twit longer. Now, he did make a video. He actually put it out as I was filming my video yesterday, so that's why. Oh my gosh, Crowley, stop! I don't know why he's screaming. Okay, oh my god, stuff just started getting crazy with my cats for a minute, so I had to go mediate. But now we're back, so let's talk about Wonder's video. This video is an hour and 20 minutes long. It was a lot to watch. It pretty much does just build off of everything he says in the Twit longer, but I decided let's just still like dive in and see everything that he has to say. So he says that seeing the clique release their story prompted them to release theirs. It gave them the courage to actually do this despite the fact that he signed an NDA. He brings up everything that Blair said about Click's Discord, and he says if you really believe that this is what his Discord is like, then why are you letting it continue? Why are you not making reports about this? Why are you not making videos exposing this? She has a huge platform that she literally uses to expose terrible business practices. So if she thought that Click was creating a dangerous environment for minors, she would 100% have the ability to actually do something about it instead of just talking about it behind the scenes. There was a lot of talk about like the call that kind of ended Sad Milk, and he does confirm like she just berated Click in this call. He said he had never heard Click, somebody who is so talkative and outgoing and charismatic, never heard him be so quiet before and just take what Blair was throwing at him. Now, Wonder says initially he did side with Blair, but also that's because, you know, she was a bigger creator and she was also becoming his boss. And I mean, as we go into it, it essentially seems like she was love bombing him, promising a brand new home built for him to live in, getting him a BMW, like, but over time, working at Sad Milk and everything just became very frustrating because it went from being a channel that was supposed to be fun to just being a content farm, essentially. And people would actually do the scheduling, get together, make content for the channel, and then only to find out that I'm assuming Blair or somebody on her team would have just deleted all their hard work without talking to them because it wasn't good enough for the channel. Kind of sounds like her MO, you know, just deleting videos that she really doesn't have a right to delete. He addresses the whole editor pay thing, which, you know, he says is false, that he didn't start editing to pay the editing, which we already like went over. He shows like bank statements for being paid for editing, and there's a lot of receipts. He also randomly slipped in like this Discord message from her where she uses the R slur, you know, the one that she is so up in arms about Click using in 2020. Like this screenshot was from 2019 and she was still typing that word out in her Discord to people. Then he also spends time talking about the Christmas Eve video and, you know, explaining more in-depthly like how long he was working on everything and just how bad the video was. So, you know, he says like Blair was always complaining about being overworked and exhausted and needing help, and so this was him helping her. He says that Blair also like over-exaggerated his feelings towards like his roommate and his frustrations living in Austin. Like, sure, everybody like, well, not everybody, but a lot of people end up like hating where they live for a while. I mean, he describes like Austin is probably terrible to live in because it is extremely difficult to get around with the amount of traffic, and it's a very large city, so there's not a lot of grass to touch out there, essentially. But he says like she really over exaggerated just how crappy he felt about his life there. He had vented to her and complained about things, but she took those few bad things he complained about and just kind of painted this picture as overall he was just so miserable there. His life was going nowhere. He had nothing. Like, she essentially like plucked him out of obscurity and saved him by bringing him to Colorado and was going to give him this amazing job and everything. But he's like, you know, I had a house. Like, I didn't hate my roommate. It's just like, you know, he and his friends were also growing apart. They don't make content, and he had a car. So behind the scenes of Sad Milk, they initially had started making like Reddit content, but they were all being pushed to move away from Reddit content in favor of long-form video essay content. He still made Reddit content on his channel, and that was what his audience liked, but he was starting to become more and more resentful of making it because he was kind of being pushed behind the scenes to not appreciate or like that content anymore. I'm assuming that he said it was just like cheap content to make. And apparently Blair has this super toxic trait of constantly checking Social Blade and comparing others to others, and would actually like pull up his Social Blade with him and then tell him how he could be better and compare him to other people. He says that's the only time that he really felt like a failure was when he saw how much he could grow. And let me just say, like, a word of advice, like, never compare yourself to somebody else, because you have a different path and a different journey from what that person over there has. So I just say, like, don't compare yourself to other people, because you are completely 100% uniquely you, and your path and your journey is going to be totally different from somebody else's. Then Wonder also shows proof of this whole, like, building him a house. She actually was going to build a few houses for a few different members of Sad Milk, and initially wanted to put them into a cul-de-sac thing, but I guess the cul-de-sac thing didn't work, so they were talking about other home plans and stuff. So she was going to make multiple houses for her friends, and then they were all gonna live in this, like, cul-de-sac together, and then she would be like everybody's landlord, and I would assume probably have, like, keys to their home and things, being the landlord. So she would have complete control over everyone's employment and their home. Honestly, it gives cult vibes. And on top of the whole, like, buying a BMW for him and love bombing the crap out of him until you get him in the same living situation as you, and then you're treating him like total garbage. I mean, I'm not saying Illuminati is starting a cult. However, the behavior of, like, cult leaders is generally to love bomb until you get them to where you want them to be, and then you work to completely break down their psyche so they're a shell and they just follow you. It kind of sounds like what she's doing here. Not to mention, I have heard that everyone in her Discord calls her mom. That's also very creepy to me. And then the whole, like, not paying rent thing, well, he moved there and was only going to be staying there like a month before he moved into this home that Blair was making for him, but then it wasn't done on time, and it wasn't going to be done for another, like, 4 months. So he ended up having to stay there a little longer, but he also hated staying there because he felt like a freeloader, and they were already treating him like a freeloader too. You know, after she wanted him to come and move to Colorado, after she bought him a car and was going to make him a house, none of this stuff which he asked for. So while living there, he obviously was feeling very alienated, especially because he thought he was friends with these people, and now he felt like nothing but a complete burden on them, and that he was just like a scapegoat for any issues they were having. Even telling him that they think he's taking advantage of them. And in, like, a little interview with Oz, because there's a few of them just, like, clipped throughout in place of where it's pertinent to the information that is being discussed, Oz says to Wonder, like, yeah, you would ask Blair for work, like any kind of work she could give you, because she was paying you. She would never give you any, so it's not really your fault that you were getting paid for not doing work when you were actively asking for work. Then he addresses his termination. He was only employed for 60 days. He said he didn't take advantage of any of the, like, benefits, like the grocery benefits and whatnot, because, well, he hadn't lived there that long. He was only living there for, like, a little over a month. So he was trying to figure out, like, where the certain roads were. Where do I get my dog's food? Where's the grocery store? Like, you know, he's just trying to figure out where the heck he is first before he's, like, taking on groceries. And he points out another thing too, that was just another thing for Blair to control. So she said that he was fired because he didn't meet multiple deadlines for videos. He said at this point before, he only had one video that he had. Now he had an issue where stuff was already uncomfortable with Blair and Oz, so he just went to Texas to visit his dad for a couple days and was going to work remotely on his laptop. Well, his laptop completely crashed, bricked up. He was not able to edit, and the deadline had also been pushed back a little bit for him. So he had like a couple extra, maybe like a week or two. I can't remember. It was like August 2nd. Oz said, I can fix the computer for you. So this dude literally jumped on a plane to Colorado from Texas for Oz to fix his laptop, and then in the same day got on a plane and went back to edit the video. In that time frame, he was locked out of the editor files, so he was not able to get into them, and then not long after was terminated because he didn't meet a deadline when that deadline had been pushed back, and they already knew that he was having computer issues. So it had nothing to do with his actual performance. He didn't even get a chance to meet a deadline. He also says, I still have no idea what this inappropriate comment that I made was, but he asked Oz about it, and Oz says, I'm not totally sure what you said, but I think it was something along the lines of, if I could be an animal, I would be a furry, and I would eat ass. cringy, yes, gross, but like grounds for firing for like completely removing somebody's livelihood, debatable for sure. And then he goes into all this math about like his payments and like all the things that he would be owed and like payouts from like editing versus just being an employee. And math is so confusing for me. Like I gotta take math slow and steady. Numbers just start floating around. It's like that meme where that woman just has all these numbers and equations. Yeah, that's me. But it doesn't have to be like all these different equations. It's just like basic mathematics. When you throw a lot at me at once, I have a hard time and I get confused. He was a little confused throughout this as well, so I'm glad I wasn't alone on this. Basically, the numbers don't add up, I believe is what he's saying. He was told this was gonna be like a $50K a year job, and just based on the like 2 months that he got paid from them, which also the payments were extremely erratic. He was supposed to be getting paid like every 2 weeks. And there were times where he didn't get any payment at all, and then other times he would get payment and then he would get another payment. So that's all very confusing and alarming when this is your job, you're relying on it, and you are relying on payments to be posted at a regular interval so you can budget and pay your bills on time. So then he starts talking about the car, and I still cannot believe that she bought this dude a freaking BMW. She and Oz took out a loan to get this guy a BMW when he said, I don't need a car. And he said she has a few BMWs. Like, damn girl, why don't you get your payments out to your people on time instead of just buying BMWs? Also, like, are BMWs that great in the snow? Colorado's like covered in snow a lot. BMWs just don't really seem like great winter cars though, if you ask me. But despite all of this amazing love bombing, he was feeling very depressed. He felt like a burden. You know, he was being told that he was a freeloader and taking advantage. Blair was even publicly passive-aggressively tweeting at him. Great boss. And then he gets emotional several times in this because, well, some of the stuff is pretty emotional. And he says while living there, it got to the point where he was pretty much living in a constant state of like disassociation, just feeling numb. And I mean, yeah, that's gotta be really hard to just not feel any sort of connection with the world. He's even like holding back tears when he's talking about this specifically. And this is when he decided to go visit his father and just have a little break. Right before he left was when she presented him with the lease agreement for the car. No, girl, you should have had that lease agreement ready for him the day he got it. It's not like you move into an apartment and then you sign the lease a month later. But in signing this, she knew that he was going to Austin to visit his dad for a little bit, just to visit. It was just legally considered a visit. So after all this whole termination thing and then her coming and repossessing the car in the middle of the night, he had his father, who is an ex-cop, who is a contractor, so makes a lot of contracts, and a family friend who is a lawyer look over this, and they all agree that this is not a legally binding contract. This also appears to be something that he is taking legal matters on, because he did also have stuff in the vehicle that he has not been able to get back. He agreed with Blair. He was going back to Texas. He would pay the depreciation value of the car. And then he asked, can I see any paperwork where my name is legally bound to this car? And he received no response. Several hours later, in the middle of the night, was when she came and repossessed the car with all of his stuff in it, including his YouTube play button. There was a PlayStation console in there. He has a whole list inventory of everything that was in the vehicle because he has reached out several times saying, I would like my stuff back. And eventually a representative of Blair said, look, if you're going to keep contacting us, we're going to file harassment charges against you. Blair's team is trying to silence him while also omitting a bunch of information about her side of the story. Then we get to the mental health stuff, and this is just horrifying. I don't want to talk a lot about it. He does talk about when he was SA'd as a very young child by a older teenager, and the whole stuff that his family went through, how he didn't understand. It's just really hard. And anybody who deals with something like that is going to have an extreme amount of trauma to deal with. He says that his mother also has OCD, and I believe it is really exacerbates during stress or trauma. So he's predispositioned to that OCD just in general without all of this. And of course, compound the both of them together, it has made life more difficult for him as he's grown up. He's been on and off medication, thinking that he was getting better without it. During lockdown, of course, with everybody, the isolation kind of became a little overbearing, and he started to see all these tendencies creep back in. And then becoming employed by Blair and moving in with Blair just blew everything up, and he like really loses it when talking about this. In fact, like he actually like blurs out the screen because he doesn't want people to see him actually sobbing. My heart breaks because like you know, I've struggled with mental illness. So many of us have. He is so strong for talking about this because I know it has to be insanely difficult, and I really wish he didn't carry that pain around inside of him. Oh my god, I'm getting emotional too. So after coming back to Texas, he said he just felt really defeated. It had been 2 months. He went from like going to this great place, flying high, being optimistic, and then coming back super deflated, broke with nothing. And it was at this point he felt like unaliving himself. He was actually very sure that he was going to do this, and he was actually even messaging Blair about doing this. She claimed she was worried and made a wellness check, calling his local PD. He says by some divine intervention, he had forgotten that he actually had a scheduled like Zoom therapy with his therapist. Maybe it wasn't Zoom, maybe it was just like over the phone. I always did Zoom ones though. Like perfect timing, right? And they actually had a long conversation. He was very honest about what he was feeling, and the therapist said, well, let's not do that. Let's talk about it. It helped him. It calmed him down a little bit and made him feel better. But Wonder does not believe that Blair called the wellness check to have the police come because she was worried about him. He shows Discord shots where she was making it all about her and how she felt in danger and everything. Wasn't he in like a totally different state? She was just trying to make herself look like the victim. Then we get to James. James is his dog. She claimed that he was very neglectful, mistreated him, did not work to socialize him with her dog. He's like, I don't know what she's talking about. Everything she said is a lie. I arrived with dog food for my dog. He had a collar. I buy him toys. He just destroys them within an hour. And he worked to socialize the dogs. He would hang out with them all the time, and they would watch videos and take naps. And in relation to the incident where his dog James bit her dog Casper's ear, made him bleed, he said, well, that was just retaliation because her dog was constantly chewing on my dog's ears, and he was fed up with it. He didn't want it anymore. Pretty much every claim she made was inherently false. Now, he does take accountability for accidentally leaving James out. He forgot about him. They had a fenced-in yard, so he was kind of surprised that he got out anyway. But he does also say that Blair lied again, saying that she got a call from somebody from the Nextdoor app. He says, no, I got a call from somebody who found James. They called me. He said, I actually even slept outside in 40-degree weather in a sleeping bag that Oz lent me because I was hoping that at least maybe my scent would get in the air and it would help James come back home. And that he was the one that went and picked James up after receiving a call about him. And this was when his dog ended up making a mess throughout the house. He got into something on his little adventure that his stomach didn't like, and he made mess around the house. Blair passive aggressively tweeted about this, and Oz says in one of the little interviews, he's like, I don't know why she was like angry about it, because it wasn't like you just weren't cleaning it up. We went upstairs because the mess was kind of like up and down the stairs and everything, and he was already cleaning it. Wonder was already cleaning up his dog's mess. So she was just being obnoxious and passive aggressive about it. He does also mention his boyfriend made a whole Twitter about Wonder and specifically their dog James and how amazing Wonder is with him, and that was one of the first things I actually read about any of this stuff, was just reading from this other person's point of view how much love Wonder shows his dog James. I also love human names for dogs. Like Spot is cool and stuff, but like I love a good James. That's a great name. I had a dog named Bridget. Like, so I just love human names for dogs. And then Wonder talks more about the photo of her living conditions, and he shares a lot more pictures of the house, and these were taken by Oz because he was so sick of the living conditions that he was being subjected to. No matter how much he cleans, it only takes a week before it becomes this mess. And oh my god, this whole thing is just like Trisha Paytas levels, especially the Box Mountain. Actually, the Box Mountain is almost more like Foodie Beauty levels. Like, it's very insane. I mean, I'm not saying I'm like the cleanest person on the planet, but this is pretty alarming, especially when he says it only takes a week to get back to this. Now, I've said several times in this video how I feel about like hoarding and the potential that she is actually a hoarder and shaming her for this. The issue is like she is putting others in risk. She was putting Oz in risk, and she does have a dog who apparently has, I can't remember what Wonder said. He says the dog does have a chronic issue, so living in these conditions is very not good for his health. And really living in dirty conditions where there's like mold and stuff sitting around in cups and things isn't good for anybody. I also don't know how you couldn't smell mold and be okay with it. Like, the second a small smell of like mildew or mold just like hits one of the olfactory glands or whatever in my nose, like I want to throw up. I like have to deep clean. I can smell that stuff from a mile away. I also don't understand though, with like all the BMWs and stuff that Blair is buying, why doesn't she hire one of those cleaning crews that you see on Hoarders? Have them come in, deep clean your house, and then pay for a weekly maid to come and clean up after you. If you spend so much money on clothes and cars, spend some money maintaining this home. And maybe your expensive clothes and purses and stuff will also like keep better because you're not just putting them and piling them on top of things. It's just crazy to me how people with like exorbitant wealth, especially like new money, just like throw the money away at stuff and then just throw that stuff in a pile. If Blair could probably throw BMWs in a pile in her garage, she'd probably do that too. So Wonder is starting to wrap up the video, and he explains that like initially Oz in this whole breakup with Blair friendship thing, Oz took Blair's side because he lived with him and her and stuff. Like, how could he not? But in January of this year, he apologized to Oz, and they have been rebuilding their friendship, and I hope that they can continue to rebuild their friendship, because especially through like garbage like this, you need somebody that understands what you went through, and it seems kind of traumatic, to be honest. Oz in this video makes a statement about like Blair's tearful apology to him in her video, and he says, I saw right through that. He's seen her create these tears multiple times in all kinds of situations, so he knows how fake and disingenuous this is. Wonder defends Oz for, you know, being stuck in the position that he was and understanding for what he did. And then Wonder thanks everybody who has been supportive of him in this. And I hope that Wonder and his boyfriend take James on a nice long walk to a dog park and they just live their best life. And at this point, like, I don't even know what there is left to say. This has been such a crazy whirlwind of information coming out. I still think the most insane thing is Click having this intense realization that he has been being secretly harassed by Blair Iilluminaughtii for several months under a sock account. I would be floored as well. Like, that is horrifying, especially because it's somebody who probably knows quite a bit about you. This whole thing is totally nuts though. I am just gonna let this all marinate in my head for a little bit. I do also have my Vanderpump Rules recap coming. I'm gonna try and film that right after this. So it's gonna be a lot of editing and stuff happening this weekend. So I don't know, I've kind of been thinking about doing like live streams and other forms of content for you guys. Would you guys like that? Would you guys like doing live streams where we can chat about like reality TV or drama that's happening on the internet? If you do, what are good days that you think would be to stream? I would usually think like a Friday or maybe like a Sunday evening or maybe like Wednesday halfway through the week to just kind of get us over the hump of everything. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below though. I will see you guys in my next video. Laters. Bye.